When a woman has gone without intimacy for a long time, the first place it quietly begins to show is not in her words, but in her energy and her mood. You see, intimacy is not only a physical act, it is an exchange of life, a release of tension, and a deep reminder of connection. When that release hasn't happened in weeks, months, or even years, her spirit begins to carry the weight of unexpressed emotions. The small things that she used to brush off may now begin to irritate her. A comment that wouldn't have mattered suddenly lingers in her chest longer than it should. She may find herself overthinking, questioning, or reacting in ways she never used to, not because she wants to, but because the natural harmony between her mind, her emotions, and her body has been disrupted. Energy is something you can't fake. It radiates in how she walks into a room, how she holds conversations, and how she carries herself in silence. When intimacy is missing, her energy can feel heavy. She might smile, but the smile feels different, like it doesn't reach her soul. She might laugh, but the laughter is shorter, almost like her spirit is trying to catch up. The imbalance creates a restlessness that she sometimes cannot explain, because even she doesn't always realize that what her body and heart are truly craving is closeness. It is in those quiet moments, when she is alone with her thoughts, that the shift becomes most evident. Mood swings become more pronounced because the body and mind are not receiving the balance that intimacy often brings. For a woman, intimacy isn't simply physical pleasure, it's chemistry, hormones, and emotional grounding. When that has been absent, she can oscillate between moments of calm and sudden waves of irritability. She might feel more withdrawn than usual, or sometimes even more outspoken, almost as if her emotions are searching for an outlet. This isn't weakness, this is simply the human body responding to a lack of emotional and physical nourishment. Sometimes, you'll notice her sitting quietly, lost in thought more than usual. She may avoid eye contact, not because she is uninterested, but because deep down, she feels a gap between what her body desires and what her reality is. Other times, she may show bursts of impatience over small issues, because her emotions are stretched thin. It is never about the little things, it's about the silent hunger that lingers within. The longing for the soft reminder that she is still desired, still connected, still alive in her femininity. The shift in her energy doesn't always present as sadness. In fact, it can show up as heightened ambition, constant business, or over productivity. She may throw herself into work, hobbies, or responsibilities just to distract herself from the gnawing emptiness she feels in moments of quiet. She becomes the woman who is always on the go, always appearing strong, because slowing down would force her to feel the void she has been avoiding. That void, left unacknowledged, slowly leaks into her mood, into how she responds to love, and into how she perceives herself. There are also subtle layers to this transformation. A woman who has been without intimacy for a long time may appear sharper with her words, more defensive when someone approaches her, or colder in her responses. It is not always because she wants to push people away. It is sometimes her body's way of protecting itself from further disappointment. Deep down, she still wants to be embraced, but her mood becomes her shield. Energy shifts into armor because she hasn't been touched in a way that softens her, reassures her, and makes her feel safe enough to let her guard down. And then there are the days when her energy feels almost unpredictable. One moment she is tender, the next she is distant. One day she craves closeness, the next she rejects it. This inconsistency confuses those around her, but within her, it is the silent battle between what she feels and what she suppresses. It is the silent conflict of a woman trying to balance the strength she shows to the world with the vulnerability she keeps hidden. This is why the shift in energy and mood is the very first and most telling sign. It is not about drama. It is not about overreaction. It is about the simple truth that a woman's essence thrives on connection. Without it, her energy changes course. Her mood becomes the voice for the needs she cannot always express out loud. And if you listen closely, if you pay attention, you will see that her silence, her irritability, or her distance is not rejection, but a quiet cry for the intimacy and closeness she has been missing. When a woman has gone without intimacy for a long time, one of the most powerful yet unspoken signs is her craving for touch. This craving doesn't always show itself in obvious ways. It isn't always about reaching out and asking directly for affection, because sometimes pride, fear, or vulnerability won't allow her to do that. Instead, it shows up in the subtle ways she moves, the gentle hints she leaves, and the quiet gestures that reveal her longing for closeness. Human beings are wired for touch. It's how we bond, how we heal, and how we remind each other that we are not alone. For a woman, especially, touch carries an emotional weight that goes far beyond physical contact. When she has been without intimacy for too long, her skin begins to crave connection. She becomes more sensitive to the smallest forms of touch. A brush of the hand, a hug that lingers just a second longer, even the accidental graze of someone's arm against hers. These tiny sparks feel amplified because her body has been starved of the comfort that comes from being physically held and cared for. You might notice her leaning into hugs more than usual or finding excuses to stay a little closer in physical proximity. It isn't something she plans consciously. It's her body's natural way of reaching for what it has been missing. Even in her solitude, this craving reveals itself. She may find herself hugging her pillow tighter at night, pulling her blanket closer, or seeking comfort in small rituals that mimic the presence of someone beside her. The touch she yearns for is not just about passion, it is about reassurance. It is about the calming effect of knowing that she is not just seen with the eyes, but felt with the heart. Without that, she may become more restless, tossing and turning at night, feeling a kind of emptiness that even sleep cannot silence. There is also a shift in how she interacts with her environment. The absence of intimacy makes her more aware of the lack of touch, so she compensates by surrounding herself with things that feel warm and comforting. She may choose softer clothes, wrap herself in oversized sweaters, or keep stuffed cushions nearby. These are not just habits of comfort. They are substitutes for the closeness she craves but doesn't have. Her body is reminding her of what she's missing, and she responds by creating little worlds of softness around her. The subtle craving for touch also shows up in her attentiveness to others. She may become more drawn to observing displays of affection, whether in movies, conversations, or even strangers holding hands on the street. While I say it out loud, something inside her stirs when she sees love expressed physically, because it reflects the very thing she has been deprived of. She feels the longing rise within her, sometimes as admiration, sometimes as quiet envy, and sometimes as a deep reminder of what she desires but has not yet received. These cravings also affect her emotionally. A woman who has not been touched in a long time can feel more sensitive to loneliness, more aware of her own vulnerability. The absence of that closeness creates a gap that no amount of distraction can truly fill. She may stay busy, she may smile, she may even convince herself that she is fine, but deep within her spirit aches for the gentle affirmation that comes through touch. This isn't just about the physical. It is about the validation of her femininity, the reminder that her softness has a place to be embraced. At times, the longing for touch can make her more expressive in indirect ways. She might start to dress differently, not always to attract attention, but because she wants to feel her own skin being celebrated. She might take longer showers, spend more time moisturizing, or even linger in front of the mirror, almost as if reminding herself that she is still worthy of being adored. These small acts are her way of trying to satisfy the hunger her body and heart feel for touch. And yet, despite all this, the craving for touch is often hidden. A woman may never come out and say, "I miss being held," because vulnerability can feel too risky. Instead, her longing is disguised in subtle actions, in gentle movements, in the unspoken hope that someone will notice her need without her having to expose it fully. She lives in the tension between her desire for closeness and her instinct to protect her heart from disappointment. This is why the craving for touch is one of the most powerful and revealing signs. It is not loud, it is not always obvious, but it is persistent. It lingers in her gestures, in her silences, and in her quiet need for connection. Her soul remembers the comfort of closeness, and her body continues to ask for it in ways that only those who pay close attention will ever truly understand. When a woman has gone without intimacy for a long period of time, one of the signs that becomes more noticeable is her heightened sensitivity to attraction. This does not always mean she is desperate or reckless in her choices. It simply means that her senses become more alert, her awareness of charm and presence sharpens, and she begins to notice energies she might have previously ignored. Attraction in this state is magnified because her body and emotions are tuned into the possibility of connection, whether she admits it to herself or not. She may find herself suddenly more aware of the way someone carries themselves, the depth of their voice, the confidence in their movement, or even the way they smell. What once may have felt ordinary now feels intensified because her senses are on high alert for reminders of intimacy. She can walk into a room and almost instantly sense who has a commanding presence, who radiates confidence, and who embodies a certain magnetic pull. It's not always intentional, it's instinctual. The absence of intimacy fine-tunes her awareness, making her more observant of subtle signals of attraction around her. In conversations, she may linger on words longer than she used to, picking up on compliments, tone changes, or the rhythm of someone's speech. And the little things begin to matter more, and the effect of attraction feels stronger. A laugh that lingers, a smile that seems genuine, or an unexpected act of kindness can trigger emotions within her more powerfully than before. It's not that she has lowered her standards. Rather, her body and heart are in a place where the simple essence of connection feels amplified. This heightened sensitivity also shows itself in her physical reactions. She may blush more easily, her breathing may change slightly in the presence of someone she finds attractive, or she may find herself stealing glances without realizing it. These are not rehearsed behaviors. They are her body's natural way of responding to stimuli that remind her of closeness. When intimacy has been missing for a long time, even subtle expressions of attraction feel electric. A simple brush of fingers can linger in her memory for days because it carries the weight of something she has been missing deeply. Her mind, too, becomes more curious. She may begin to imagine more frequently what it would feel like to be with someone, not just physically but emotionally as well. Attraction in this sense becomes both a physical and a mental exploration. She notices the way someone listens, the effort they put into understanding her, and the attentiveness they display. All of these become stronger triggers for her because they hint at the connection she has been yearning for. The absence of intimacy makes her more receptive to noticing these qualities because her entire being is in quiet search of what feels missing. Even in social settings, her energy shifts. She may appear more playful, more open, or more responsive when she encounters someone who exudes traits that align with her desires. It isn't forced. It's a natural response to the magnetic pull of attraction. She might laugh more at their jokes, lean in a little closer, or maintain eye contact longer than usual. These actions are small, but they reveal how tuned in she has become to the possibility of closeness. It's also worth noting that this sensitivity to attraction doesn't always lead to immediate action. Many times she notices, she feels, she reacts internally, but she does not pursue. Instead, she allows the feelings to sit within her, sometimes enjoying the rush of butterflies as a reminder that her spirit is still alive, that her heart is still capable of responding to attraction. In some ways, this sensitivity becomes a reaffirmation of her femininity, a reminder that even after long stretches without intimacy, the essence of who she is still responds to desire. At times, this heightened awareness can also make her more cautious. Because she knows how strongly she feels attraction, she may hold back even more, fearing that her emotions could overpower her reasoning. She might second-guess herself, questioning whether she is drawn to someone because of genuine compatibility or simply because her body and emotions are amplifying the feeling due to the absence of intimacy. This inner conflict creates a delicate balance between her desires and her defenses, making her more thoughtful about how she responds to attraction. Ultimately, this heightened sensitivity is not a flaw. It is a natural and human response to longing. When she hasn't been intimate for a long time, her awareness of attraction is like a flame that has been shielded but never extinguished. It flickers more brightly when it senses the possibility of closeness, reminding her that no matter how long it has been, her spirit is still receptive to connection, her heart is still open to the idea of love, and her body still remembers what it feels like to be wanted. When a woman has gone without intimacy for a long time, her body language often reveals more than her words ever will. You see, the body has a way of speaking before the mouth decides to confess. It carries hidden truths, subtle hints, and unconscious movements that reflect the longing within. A woman may never openly admit that she has been without closeness for months or even years, but her posture, her gestures, and the way she engages with her surroundings often tell a story of their own. Body language is the silent language of desire, and when intimacy is absent, it becomes amplified. You may notice the way she positions herself in a room, sometimes leaning a little closer when drawn to someone, or keeping her arms uncrossed as if inviting energy in. She might tuck her hair behind her ear more frequently, adjust her clothes unnecessarily, or play with jewelry as though her hands are searching for something to release the tension she feels. These are not rehearsed actions. They are subconscious signs of her yearning for connection. Eye contact is one of the strongest indicators. When intimacy has been missing from her life, her eyes sometimes linger longer than expected. They hold on to a gaze, searching for something that resonates deeper than surface-level conversation. She may avoid eye contact altogether when she feels exposed, but when attraction stirs, her eyes betray her inner thoughts. They become softer, more curious, and more expressive, reflecting the emotions she may not be ready to say out loud. A simple glance in these moments carries volumes of unspoken need. Touching herself unconsciously is another tell. She may brush her hand across her neck, graze her lips with her fingers, or run her palms down her arms without realizing it. These self-soothing gestures are ways the body reminds itself of the intimacy it has been craving. They act as substitutes for the presence of another's touch, small signals that her body is trying to comfort itself in the absence of closeness. To the unobservant eye, they may appear random, but to those who pay attention, they speak volumes. Her posture also shifts when she has been without intimacy. Sometimes she carries herself with a quiet heaviness, shoulders slightly tense as though the weight of longing rests upon her. Other times, she straightens up more than usual, exuding an air of confidence that masks the vulnerability she hides inside. When she is in the presence of someone who stirs her interest, she may lean forward slightly, angle her body toward them, or mirror their movements without realizing she is doing it. These small adjustments in posture are physical reflections of the emotional pull she feels. Even her breathing patterns may change. A woman who has been without intimacy can experience quickened breaths in moments of attraction, or slower, deeper breaths when she feels seen and understood. Breathing becomes a reflection of her inner state, revealing her restlessness, her calm, or her heightened sensitivity to the presence of another. These shifts are subtle, but they are part of the body's language that speaks long before she decides to open her mouth. Her voice, too, can be a part of this unspoken communication. Without intimacy, her tone may become softer, more deliberate when speaking to someone she feels drawn to. She may laugh more frequently, not out of amusement alone, but because laughter provides a release for the emotions bubbling within her. The cadence of her speech, the pauses between her sentences, and the way she emphasizes certain words all contribute to the language her body speaks without needing translation. Silence is another form of body language. Sometimes, when a woman has been without intimacy, her silences grow longer, her pauses more telling. She might sit quietly, her eyes distant, her fingers fidgeting, her body caught between wanting to express and choosing restraint. That silence is not emptiness. It is filled with all the things she wishes she could say but doesn't. Her body carries those unsaid words, and anyone attentive enough can hear them without a single sound. What makes body language so revealing is that it cannot be fully controlled. A woman can hide her feelings with carefully chosen words. She can present strength with her actions, but her body will always find a way to reveal her truth. The absence of intimacy creates a kind of restlessness in her body, and that restlessness shows up in these small, unconscious gestures. They may be subtle, but they are powerful because they are honest. So when intimacy has been missing, it is often not her lips that confess it first. It is in the way she tilts her head when listening, in the way her eyes wander longer than they should, in the way her hands fidget when she is restless, and in the way her presence shifts when desire lingers beneath the surface. Her body becomes the narrator of her story, carrying truths she may not yet be ready to speak, but can no longer fully conceal. When a woman has not experienced intimacy for a long time, what she longs for is not always just the physical act itself. The deeper yearning often lies in the need for emotional validation. This is the quiet desire to feel seen, understood, and valued, not just for her body, but for her entire being. Intimacy for a woman is not only about pleasure, it is about connection. And when that connection is missing, her heart begins to search for affirmation in subtle but profound ways. Emotional validation is the assurance that her feelings matter, that her thoughts are respected, and that her presence carries weight. When she has gone without closeness for too long, she begins to crave these affirmations more intensely. It is not enough for her to simply be desired physically. She wants to know that her emotions are acknowledged, and that she is cherished beyond what the eye can see. This need becomes even more apparent in moments when she feels invisible or overlooked. A simple word of appreciation, a small gesture of care, or a genuine effort to listen to her can mean more to her than grand expressions of desire. When intimacy has been missing, she may become more sensitive to the lack of emotional recognition in her life. She may feel overlooked in conversations, unnoticed in her efforts, or underappreciated for the love and energy she gives. These moments of invisibility weigh heavier on her because they deepen the reminder of the connection she has been missing. She doesn't just want someone to touch her skin, she wants someone to touch her soul, to remind her that her essence is still valued. Her search for validation often shows up in her interactions. She may seek deeper conversations, asking questions that go beyond the surface. She may lean into discussions about purpose, dreams, or emotions, not because she wants to overwhelm, but because she is looking for proof that someone is willing to meet her at the level of her heart. Compliments that acknowledge her inner strength, her kindness, or her intelligence often affect her more deeply than comments about her appearance. She desires the reassurance that her worth is not defined only by the external, but by the depth of who she is. This need for validation also influences how she views herself. Without intimacy, she may sometimes begin to question her desirability. wondering if her presence still holds the same weight it once did. These thoughts are not signs of weakness, but natural reflections of the absence of affirmation. A woman thrives when she knows she is both wanted and valued, when her vulnerability is met with acceptance rather than dismissal. The longer she goes without this kind of intimacy, the louder the quiet questions become within her mind. Am I still beautiful? Am I still seen? Am I still enough? The emotional validation she craves is not only about reassurance from others, it is also about reconnecting with her own femininity. When intimacy has been missing, she may find herself investing more in self-care rituals, not just to look good, but to feel reconnected to her own sense of worth. She may spend more time in front of the mirror, not out of vanity, but to remind herself of the beauty that still exists within her. These moments of self-recognition are her way of validating her own essence in the absence of external affirmation. At the same time, the yearning for emotional validation can make her more attentive to how others treat her. She may withdraw from environments where she feels dismissed or undervalued, because the lack of intimacy already amplifies her sensitivity to being overlooked. She becomes more aware of who truly sees her and who only glances at her surface. Her spirit begins to gravitate towards spaces where her emotions are acknowledged, where her voice is heard, and where her heart is recognized as worthy. Even in her silence, the need for emotional validation speaks loudly. It is in the way she lingers a little longer when someone truly listens, in the way her eyes soften when her emotions are acknowledged, and in the way her spirit lifts when she feels genuinely appreciated. These moments may seem small, but for a woman who has been without intimacy, they carry profound weight. They remind her that her essence is not forgotten, that her soul still matters, and that she is still worthy of love and connection beyond the physical. This is why the need for emotional validation stands as one of the clearest signs when a woman has not experienced intimacy for a long time. It is the hunger to be seen in her fullness, to be reminded that she is more than her body, and to know that her emotions, her thoughts, and her spirit still hold value in a world that sometimes overlooks the quiet strength she carries